With the first Fatal Fury released and receiving rave reviews, SNK knew they are onto something and that they have laid out the ground for a long and successful franchise. But with the first game being released around the same time as the behemoth Street Fighter II, it was only natural for gamers and reviewers alike to compare the two titles. And while Fatal Fury had more personality and deeper story, as well as a unique gameplay mechanic, the game lacked in terms of playable characters and versus mode play, as Street Fighter II offered 8 unique fighters compared to the Fatal Fury trio. SNK knew that they would need to add more characters and amp up the ante to be able to take on Street Fighter and to offer a sequel that both old and new fans would enjoy. With that in mind, work on Fatal Fury 2 began few weeks after the release of the first game. The plan of SNK was to take the first Fatal Fury and use it as a foundation, then build on it by adding new gameplay elements to make a better sequel. It didn't take long for SNK to make their fans know that a second Garou Densetsu is on the way. While still being involved to some capacity, series creator Takashi Nishiyama would not take the role of the game director and producer, as that role would be filled by the SNK father figure and founder Eikichi Kawasaki. It wouldn't take long for SNK to start showing their new game, now officially titled Garou Densetsu Tsu Arata Naru Tatakai, or Fatal Fury 2 The New Battle for the rest of the world. At first glance, it was clear that SNK wanted to take on Capcom on Street Fighter 2. Much like its competition, Fatal Fury 2 offered 8 playable characters, including 1 female, hidden bosses, and a well thought of 1 vs 1 mode. As the release of Fatal Fury 2 was getting close, SNK prepared a bold marketing strategy, including few live-action TV ads.
100 Mega Shock Neogeonow! SNK.
A mini manga illustrated by famed SNK illustrator Shiroi Eiji was also published in gaming magazines, serving as a prologue to the game and a bridge from the first Fatal Fury. Fatal Fury 2 hit the arcades on December 1992 in Japan, 13 months after its predecessor, and took SNK's fame to a new level. In terms of gameplay, Fatal Fury 2, which was the second game in SNK's 100 Mega Shock line, offered easier controls, better graphics, and more variety. One of the major changes is that the game now uses all 4 buttons of the Neo Geo by including 4 attack buttons: a low punch, high punch, low kick, and a high kick. The 2-lane system has been expanded, allowing the players to knock their opponent to the other lane. Moving between lanes is now done using the combination of LP and LK. Additionally, some stages have hazards like electricity or even raging running endless bulls. While these hazards limit the gameplay to a 1 lane only, pushing your opponent against one of these makes them lose life meter and could help shift the battle to your advantage. And speaking of meter, Fatal Fury 2 borrows the desperation move that debuted in the first auto fighting game, as now every character has the ability to perform a super move when their life meter is flashing red. The game also introduced a parry-like system and the first of its kind in fighting games, known as defensive attack, done by pressing forward and A right after blocking an attack. Bonus stages also make a comeback in Fatal Fury 2, albeit quite different from the first game. While in the first Fatal Fury, the bonus game had the player pressing the A or B buttons multiple times to win an arm wrestling bout against a machine, in the sequel, the player comes through two bonus games. The first one after defeating the fourth opponent, and it consists of having the character attempting to smash all 10 stone columns within 60 seconds. Each column must be struck thrice on its upper and lower halves to be completely destroyed. The second bonus stage happens after the 8th match. In this one, the player must smash all 10 stone brick piles within 45 seconds. Each entire pillar must be struck repeatedly to be completely destroyed. After smashing a column, another one falls randomly on the arena. The player must also be careful not to be hit with any of these bonus stage items. In terms of characters, the Bogard brothers Terry, Andy, and their inseparable friend Joe Higashi are all back for more brawling, and joining them are 5 other colorful playable fighters. The most notable one is the game's first female fighter, Mai Shiranui. And if Street Fighter had Chun-Li as the sexy female fighter, SNK was about to take sexiness to another level with Mai. She is the heiress of Shiranui clan of ninjas and Hanzo Shiranui's granddaughter. She met Andy Bogard during his training with her grandfather and fell in love with him. Believe it or not, Mai was not even planned to be in Fatal Fury at all, as her fighting style was created for a different male ninja. When developers shifted their focus to include an idol character in the series, they decided to scrap the Shiranui man for Mai. Her characteristic bounce was loosely modified from the method of assassination of a kunoichi, which is a female ninja, to be sensual to their unassuming prey before they strike. Besides Mai, these are the rest of the new characters to join Fatal Fury 2. Kim Kapwan, a taekwondo master from Korea. He strives for excellence and righteousness in everything he does, be it his fighting or personal life, besides having an inherent and strong sense of justice. Big Bear, a massive wrestler who was confirmed to be Raiden from the first Fatal Fury. He changed his persona after the defeat of his master Geese Howard and is now one of the good guys. Cheng Sinzan, a wealthy businessman who trained along Jeff Bogard and Geese and a former student of Tang Fu Ru. While a strong fighter, his motives are always dictated by greed and the need to make more money. Jubei Yamada, a judo master who used to be nicknamed the Demon back in his younger years. He also trained Mai Shiranui at the request of her grandfather and his personal friend, Hanzo. Axel Hawk, a former heavyweight boxing champion who was banned from the ring due to his violent tendencies. He was hired by the game's boss to be one of his 3 defenders. Billy Khan, the British bowmaster, is back in Fatal Fury 2 as one of the 3 defenders of the game's final boss. He is now faster and stronger than he was in the first game. Lawrence Blood, a former bullfighter easily capable of gracefully dodging the charges of bulls and killing them with one stroke of his sword. Due to his family having strong ties with the game's boss, he is his head of security and one of his 3 defenders.
I'll chisel your gravestone. Sleep well.
Wolfgang Krauser, the game's final boss, named the Lord of Darkness. Krauser is a descendant of a glorious family known as Stroheim. He held a prestigious upper status with leaders of the world. He also happens to be Geese Howard's half-brother. Krauser decides to host the King of Fighters tournament in order to lure the fighter who defeated Geese so he can test his strength against him.
You were good. You fought well.
Story-wise, Fatal Fury takes place few weeks to months after the first game. The defeat of Geese Howard gave the Southtown citizens a breeze of new air. Terry was regarded as a hero of the city. and fighters from around the world would travel to challenge the man who defeated the powerful Geese. Upon hearing the news of his half-brother's defeat, Wolfgang Krauser, heir to the powerful Sorheim family, would decide to test Terry's skills. Along with his 3 enforcers, Krauser hosted the new King of Fighters tournament and invited old and new competitors. Just like in the previous tournament, the Southtown trio of Terry, Andy, and Joe have decided to enter the competition and see who's the mysterious organizer known as Wolfgang Krauser. Not only was Fatal Fury 2 a step up from the previous game in terms of characters and gameplay, but the graphics and sound saw a significant upgrade. The sprites are more detailed and colorful and animate better. These stages are busier and offer interactions with the player, and the music was a memorable selection that rivaled Street Fighter II's catchy character themes. Fatal Fury 2 was released on the Neo Geo MVS and AES on December 10, 1992, and proved to be a great success for SNK during the 1993 fiscal year. In Japan, Game Machine magazine listed Fatal Fury 2 on their February 1993 issue as being the most successful table arcade unit of the year. Western publications like GamePro magazine also praised the game for its action-packed gameplay, great characters and animation, as well as amazing sound, calling it a fantastic sequel. Fatal Fury 2 would see numerous home ports, but not until early 1994. The game was released on the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, X68000, PC Engine, and even the Game Boy. The Super Nintendo and Genesis versions were published by Takara, while the X68000 version, released only in Japan, was published by Mahou Kabushi Kigaisha, known as Magical Company. All 3 versions allow the player to control the 4 bosses via their own respective codes. The PC Engine version was published by Hudson Soft only in Japan and was one of the first games to require the arcade card add-on for the system. To coincide with the Japanese release of the Super Nintendo version, Hori Electric released a special controller called the Fatal Fury 2 Commander, which has the special moves and supers of all the game's playable characters programmed in so that they can be triggered with a single button. Not very competitive. The Game Boy version was titled Netto Garo Densetsu ni, which can be translated to Dead Heat Fighters Legend of the Hungry Wolf 2. This exclusive to Japan portable port was developed by Takara, the toy company that will be considered as the most successful port-in developer for the Game Boy when it comes to fighting games. The Game Boy version of Fatal Fury 2 featured super deformed style graphics and also allowed the player to use the 4 boss characters. Considering the Game Boy limitation, it was an amazing feat to have the game's large roster complete with their special moves, personalities, cool looking stages, and music. But sacrifices had to be made. For example, all voices have been removed, but in their place, the characters have speech bubbles when performing a special attack or desperation move. This port also features support for the Super Game Boy peripheral for the Super Nintendo. Similar to what we saw with the first Fatal Fury game, SNK greenlit an anime adaptation by the same name. With the success of the first Fatal Fury anime, Masami Obari was once again hired by SNK and Fuji TV to adapt this second game. SNK and Fuji TV allowed Obari's team to take whatever liberties they thought were necessary. Their only request was to make the story lovable for already established fans of the franchise. The company's support was also backed by the fact that Obari and the anime director Furuhashi-san were already fans of SNK games whom wanted to do the characters justice. The main focus of the second anime was to expand Terry Bogard's character arc. Since the first installment was to introduce Terry's beginnings as a legend, this entry's goal was to show his normal lifestyle and him dealing with his newfound fame. Furuhashi and his crew wanted to depict a believable what-if situation of Terry losing, hoping to explore a new side to his character. The planning process for this character arc eventually led to the creation of the original character Tony, a decision that is still debated by fans to this day. Another big priority during development was Mai Shiranui. Since her debut in the games had skyrocketed the series' popularity, developers were a little nervous on how to naturally introduce her in the darker story they had planned. This problem was solved when one story planner suggested on featuring her love for Andy, giving the audience breathing room and comic relief in between Terry's brooding moments. Obari had little problems with designing her and was adamant in his feminine design for Mai. To better fit with the gorgeous and sexy Mai, Andy Bogard was redesigned to look more like a pretty boy, a contrast to his vengeful and hateful self from the first anime. One of the biggest differences from the Fatal Fury 2 game is the youthful appearance of Wolfgang Krauser. This was a decision made by the team to better fit their image of his character. Since Krauser is always more talented than his half-brother Guise, Obari thought it would be a greater insult to Guise if Krauser also stayed eternally young and more attractive than his relative, although more faithful and older-looking designs of Krauser were made during the pre-planning stages. Besides the new anime, Fatal Fury 2 also received a number of manga adaptations. These include some comedic koma mangas or short stories, a new volume from Bonbon Garu by Yuji Hasui where more insane plot twists took place, as well as a new volume from Kei Ishikawa's Garu Densetsu Senritsu no Maomachi, where our heroes have to fight monsters from other dimensions. But none of these adaptations would come even close to the Garu Densetsu ni manga by Kei Mondo. The two-volume manga can be seen as a more faithful adaptation as it follows the story of the game more closely. All characters from Fatal Fury 2 make an appearance during the events of the manga, with some having more important roles than others. Fatal Fury 2 was without a doubt a success for SNK. It took everything that worked in the first game and made it better, and was a true rival to Street Fighter 2. But by the time it released, Capcom started something unseen in video games before, a gameplay update to their already released games. After Street Fighter 2 was released, Capcom immediately began working on an updated version dubbed Street Fighter 2 Dash or Champion Edition. This version offered playable bosses, increased speeds, and minor gameplay changes. Not to be outdone by its biggest competitor, SNK announced only a few months after the release of Fatal Fury 2 an updated version of the game titled Fatal Fury Special.
Mega Shock Neogeonow!
いくつもの伝説が生まれ、そして消えてゆく。狼は眠らない。画廊伝説スペシャル。
SNK.
But unlike Capcom, SNK will not only make the bosses playable, but will also add more characters, guest fighters, new stages, gameplay changes, and more. But was SNK successful with the new Fatal Fury Special? That will be a topic for another video. Until then, please consider becoming a patron, helping the channel, and also getting exclusive early access to all of the channel videos